Welcome to the Brainz Magazine podcast, a podcast with in-depth interviews and conversations with world-class entrepreneurs, expert coaches, industry leaders, and international celebrities. Get exclusive insight into the world of business, mindset, leadership, and lifestyle with your host, Mark Sefton.
I want to welcome you to the next episode of the Brainz Magazine podcast. And today we have Carla Marcos López. Carla is a clinical hypnotherapist. How are you today, Carla?
Really well, Mark. Very happy to be here.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming. Obviously, I was really excited when you signed up to do the Brainz podcast. And I'm looking forward to it over the next 30 minutes or so.
Yeah, so am I.
You know, it's crazy, isn't it? It's like, the middle of May. It's like, where has the year gone?
I know. Are you looking forward to the summer?
Yes, I think it's interesting, isn't it? Because obviously we live in a world where we have seasons. But I often find, at least the transition from winter into spring in particular, it seems to really mirror actually the outgoings of the journey of the soul. At least for me, that's how it feels. Do you feel like that's true of you as well?
Well, I certainly notice a difference with the spring. It's the spring. You just feel more alive, and well, the weather gets better too, so you spend more time outside. But biologically, I feel that yes, it has an impact, doesn't it, as well?
Yeah, the thing I love about spring is like you see all the budding flowers and you start to see things, springing up. And I always think it's a beautiful metaphor. I think summer is still my favorite season, Carla, but the thing I love about spring is those things that have been growing beneath the surface that nobody can see. And then all of a sudden, buds of beauty, and that is such a beautiful metaphor for life. It's often the unseen. It's the things that are happening in our everyday life behind closed doors, away from the eyes of others, and then you start to see little buds.
Yeah, that's like therapeutic work as well. You plant the seeds and you don't see anything just yet, but then suddenly they blossom.
Exactly. I wanted to ask you, what is Solution Focused Hypnotherapy?
Well, Solution Focused Hypnotherapy is a blend of psychotherapy and hypnosis. And the use of hypnosis is what makes this therapeutic approach so effective. And perhaps one of the things that differentiates Solution Focused Hypnotherapy from other forms of hypnotherapy is that it doesn't need to delve into a person's past, as this is not necessary to help somebody move forward and plan how they want to live their best life in the future. Yes, Milton Erickson said, people don't come to therapy to change their past, they come to therapy to change their future. So that's what we do. We look at where the person is now and where do they want to go in the future. Well, we do throw little glances back into the past to understand where we acquired some beliefs, how we develop certain behaviors, but we don't stay there very long, because sometimes we could be reinforcing those neural pathways that created those thought patterns that are being unhelpful and perhaps leading to maladaptive strategies today. So we don't want to reinforce those. We want to understand them, but we don't want to stay there very long. We want to move beyond those responses.
Do you feel like everything can be met with hypnotherapy? Do you feel like there's nothing that we can experience on Earth that can't be put right by hypnotherapy?
That's how I feel. Yes. Yes, because sometimes it's difficult to answer that question when somebody tells you, what do you do? What can you help your clients with? Because I can help clients with so many different conditions, such as anxiety disorders, low mood, depression, insomnia, OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, irritable bowel syndrome, chronic pain, fears and phobias. But I also help many clients who are very functional in their lives, but want to work on themselves because they're not happy with just surviving. They want more from life. they want to live well and thrive. So they might also want to learn how to better manage their stress levels or their weight, build their confidence, be ready for peak performance at work, performing arts, sports, unleash their creativity, sometimes find their purpose, reconnect with themselves, quit bad habits, reduce procrastination in order to achieve their goals, or make significant changes or decisions in their lives. So it can help with, I would say that what I do, the first branch of what I do would be treating a specific conditions. The second one is more focused on personal development, but more often than not, they tend to be interlinked.
Can you do hypnotherapy on yourself, Carla? Is it something that you're able to do?
Well, all hypnosis is self-hypnosis, really. Okay. We wouldn't accept suggestions that were against our beliefs or our values. So when we practice hypnosis, when somebody, we are with a hypnotherapist and a hypnotherapist presents suggestions to us, we decide. So it's self-hypnosis. We choose the messages that work for us and what doesn't work for us, we just ignore it. So it's always self-hypnosis. We are always in control in that respect.
Does that mean that you don't struggle with anything?
Oh, sorry, you asking me if I do hypnosis with me regularly? Yes. Oh, I do. Well, I listen to myself quite often. Yes, because I know that my recording is very good. So I know it's done really well. It's got, all the bits that it needs to have. And yes, I do, because it's so helpful. It helps. I listen to my sleep hypnosis recording sometimes when, I've got a lot of work or I'm a bit stressed myself. So I listen to that because it really helps. It helps with sleep, and we need REM sleep to help us process the events of the day. So we want to help REM sleep to do its job, to work its magic whilst we sleep. And that recording really helps.
So the recording then, is it something that you have recorded yourself and actually listened to it? And what sort of things are contained in that, if you feel good about like maybe sharing some of that?
Yes, well, I can talk about the structure, but most sleep hypnosis recordings would have a similar structure. To start with, you have an opener, which it tends to be the same, very, similar every time. That's like when you conduct a hypnosis session with a client in the consulting room. So you've got an opener, and then you have your induction. At that point, a lot of the recordings, it just varies, but you tend to have a progressive muscle relaxation. It really helps relaxing the body, because body and mind are intimately interconnected. So when you're lying in bed at night, very relaxed, the message that your body is sending to your limbic system, to your amygdala, your primitive mind, the one that makes sure that you survive, is that you're relaxed. You're safe. Your heart is beating gently. You're breathing gently. Your muscles aren't tense. You're not in fight or flight. You're not in danger. You're not surrounded by polar bears. So we send the message to the brain. Oh, we don't need to start producing stress hormones. We don't need to start producing dopamine, adrenaline. So that's already helping us relax. So we have an induction that helps us relax. And then we have the deepener. Deepeners can be different depending, there's a wide range of things that you can choose to. I like the stairs. I like to use the stairs because it's like when you're walking down the stairs, you walk down the stairs because you go deeper and deeper, and you take one step and another step, and it just helps you relax and go deeper and deeper into trance. That's the deepener. After that, we have what we call body text, which is where it contains suggestions. It contains the suggestions depending on what you're dealing with, what you're working on. For example, it could be confidence, or it could be, if that's what your client wants to work on, sometimes about performance, sometimes about over-functioning at work. But I have to say that something that I should mention here, because I'm a solution-focused hypnotherapist, is that I don't use scripts. I use language patterns, because my approach is non-directive, which means that the language patterns are more open to interpretation. Is always going to be bespoke. You know, like when you listen to a song and you think, oh, you give it meaning. It means something to you. It's your projection of what this song means. With language patterns, it's just the same. That's why it works so well. And it means different things for different people. And is doing the right thing. I'll just use an example with a client who told me at the end of the recording, there's a story of two trees. And he told me, I know that you're the little tree. And well, I'm not the little tree, but if that works for him, it's great, because that's exactly what he has to do. We give it meaning. So it's not a script in which it tells you, you're going to do this or you're going to stop doing that. No, it's just open. It's a language pattern. That's why your client will have a wide range of options, and it will mean something for them, because that's how it works, and it's so effective, because it has to be their solution, and they are the experts in their life.
So it's really allowing personal interpretation, right?
Exactly. Yep.
Okay.
And at the end, we tend to finish with a metaphor.
Okay. You mentioned about the body mind. How does the body and mind work? Like how like obviously the body often leads like the mind, and the mind responds to the body. But how did it actually work?
Right. It works both ways.
Yeah.
In the sense that one of the things that are always we focus on during the sessions as well is becoming more aware, increasing the awareness of our thoughts. How do we think? How do we see situations? Because most people think that their levels of awareness, their perception, is the only awareness or perception there is, and that's sometimes part of the problem. The problem is not the events, what happens to us, but how we see those events, how we interpret reality. So by giving a wider range of options, of ideas, of possibilities, of data categories, then we have more information with which to interpret reality. So more potentially helpful, beneficial outcomes, right? So we start by becoming very aware of how we think, because that's going to have an impact on how we feel, because the mind cannot tell the difference between imagination and reality. How are we interpreting this reality? If we're interpreting reality in a way which is unhelpful or very negative, what's going to happen here? Our amygdala, that is constantly on the lookout for threat and danger, that wants to keep us safe, is our more primal part of it, in the most primal primeval. Oh God, now it's going to start with my Spanglish. Anyway, limbic system helps us survive, right? So if the amygdala thinks that we are in danger or a crisis, it's going to tell the hypothalamus, start producing stress hormones, cortisol and adrenaline, because we need to run, we need to fight, to do whatever we need to do to survive. Okay, so even if these are just thoughts, because sometimes we can feel really stressed and we are not facing, we're not in front of a polar bear, we're in front of the computer just reading emails, and we can have a stress response as if we, in the same similar stress response that we would have in a really threatening situation. So for a start, this is we become aware of how the impact that our thoughts have. And once we realize that our thoughts have a tremendous impact on our emotional state and subsequently on how we behave, is when we realize that we have so much control over what happens in our lives. So we start with the thoughts, we understand, we become aware of the thoughts and how our bodies respond, because our bodies will respond, because the more negative the thoughts, the more negative forecasting the future, negative introspection about the past, our mind thinks this is real, is producing all these stress hormones, and over time this can have a significant effect on our health, increasing high blood pressure, reducing immunity, increasing weight, poor sleep, gastrointestinal symptoms, because if our autonomous nervous system autonomic or autonomous, is mainly divided in our sympathetic nervous system and parasympathetic nervous system. Right, when our sympathetic nervous system, which is the fight or flight system, is very active a lot of the time, other functions get suppressed, other bodily systems, because we are concentrated on survival. And what is relevant to survive? Well, we want to be breathing quickly, fast, so that we get enough oxygen to reach the muscles. Maybe we have to fight somebody or run. And we want our heart cardio needs to work well. We want this heart pumping blood with full of oxygen because we are in survival mode. So this was working really well. But what do we get as well? We might get migraines. We might get tension, neck, shoulders, jaw. Sometimes not even realizing this because we are tensing our muscles. Well, other systems that are regulated by the parasympathetic nervous system, for example, our immunity might get suppressed because it's not engaging so much, is it? It gets a little bit suppressed because sympathetic nervous system is dominant. So our parasympathetic nervous system is not working too well or not engaging so much. So our immune system might be suppressed. We might be more prone to catch infections. Digestion is not essential to our survival, because if we are running away from a polar bear, we know it's not the time to digest food, is it? So that sometimes we can have gastrointestinal symptoms when we are really stressed. So ideally, these two systems should be working in harmony. So that's why the interconnection of body and mind, our thoughts, our mind, will have an impact on our physical health, on our bodies, and vice versa as well. Just what I mentioned before about when we are listening to the sleep hypnosis recording, when we are lying in bed at night and we are relaxed, our body's telling our limbic system, I'm safe, I'm okay, I'm not surrounded by polar bears, I can relax. I can relax.
Yeah, that's really interesting, actually, what you were saying about the digestive system and then under extremes, like obviously it's not where our body's going to put its energy and its focus, but how they need to be in tandem. I really like that. So with that being said, our minds are powerful, aren't they? They have the ability to unlock and imprison. So how do we get the best out of our minds, Carla? What's the best thing that we can do for our heads?
The best thing that we can do is to start with becoming very aware of our thought patterns. Very, very aware. As we increase awareness and we can see the way our habitual thought patterns and identify those that are unhelpful and that getting in the way of our goals, that's one of the first steps. Because very often with my clients, what we find is that they would tell me, I've read all the books, I've watched all the YouTube videos, I still cannot do this thing. And they're very well versed in psychology, very intelligent, and the thing they cannot do the thing. But why is this? Because they don't have a conscious problem. They have an unconscious problem. They know a lot at a cognitive level. They're the experts, but we still cannot do that because we're not aware of those patterns that are, because let's say we have one brain but two minds. If we use one and not the other, self-sabotage can kick in. So once we become more aware of those patterns that are preventing us from achieving those goals, that's the first step. We understand that, okay, perhaps I want to give a speech in front of lots of people, but I freeze. Why? Because maybe in the past I learned that in my system, family system, or other system, that was dangerous, because you could be the target of criticism, of rage, or the person learns, keeping a low profile. I'm simplifying things a lot here, but to give you an idea. This is what works for my survival. This is the adaptive response. But then people take these adaptive responses to different contexts, and that's where we have the problem, because we have a goal, conscious goal, but primitive mind, the emotional mind, is saying, don't do that, don't go there, that's dangerous. So we'll find ways to sabotage our goals, our conscious goals. That's why first step, we understand our thought patterns and what's stopping us from achieving those goals, because we really want this, but why is not happening? That's, being aware of our thought patterns and starting to change those if we want to, understanding that we can think differently, that we are the thinker and we can decide how we think and where we focus, because what we focus on, we amplify. At the same time, sometimes what we need to do is to de-amplify something. So the thoughts, very important, starting to audit our thoughts, becoming aware of them. And then we want to keep a brain neurochemically balanced, because we want to have these wonderful neurotransmitters, our happy chemicals, to help us feel good. And what are neurotransmitters? They're just chemical messengers that help our brain to communicate very well with itself. And if we've said that we have these two minds, that we want them to communicate really well with each other, because when we are really stressed and our brain is flooded with stress hormones like corticotropin, they can't communicate properly. So our intellectual brain, our cortex, won't be able to override those danger signals coming from our primitive mind. So if the primitive mind identifies that a situation might be dangerous, even if it's just perceived danger, even if it's not real danger, because talking in front of people is not dangerous, is it? Talking in front of polar bears might be. They are nice people, it should be okay. Okay, so the intellectual mind will be able to tell the primitive mind, it's okay, don't worry. But if we are really, really stressed, that doesn't happen. That's not going to happen. So we want those chemical messengers, because they will help us feel good. We want to be producing serotonin, dopamine, other neurotransmitters, because they make us feel good for a start. They are our feel-good chemicals, and also help our brain to communicate very well with itself, because the brain communicates with itself through neurotransmitters. So how do we get that? We achieve this with positive activity, positive interaction, and positive thinking. That will help us produce those neurotransmitters endogenously, through ourselves, because we're not so different. We're not so far away from our primitive ancestors. We are still hardwired in much the same way as the caveman and cavewoman in the past, an early man and early woman. We're not so different. So we get a reward when we hunted. They did get a reward when they hunted and gathered and successfully supported themselves and their families and interacted with others. And that reward is that chemical response in the brain that produces these neurotransmitters. And in the work we do, one of the most important ones is serotonin. We want to maintain a constant flow of serotonin. That helps us feel good. And sleep is fundamental. Sleep is essential as well. It's another pillar of what we do to help us feel good and help our brain, because at night with REM sleep, non-REM is very important as well for cellular repair, memory consolidation, but for what we're trying to achieve most of the time, which is reducing the stress levels, REM sleep is very important, because it helps us process the events of the day. And we need REM sleep. So we make sure that's what we listen to the sleep hypnosis recording at night to help with sleep. So these are the main pillars, I would say. Very aware of the thoughts, positive activity, interaction, and thinking, and sleep. These are fundamental.
I love myself some serotonin. It's a great word as well. There's certain words that are just as juicy and as rich as the actual meaning of them. It's such a great word, that word. Mentioned, go on.
No, it sounds good. Serotonin.
Serotonin, yeah, it's quite musical. I was gonna ask you, because you kind of mentioned about these two minds, how do we then stay in our two minds of both primitive and intellectual at the same time? Is it possible?
Is it possible? Is it possible? Oh, I don't know. Well, the way to see those two minds, maybe, perhaps, you can think about the tide of the sea. You think about the sea. Let's think about the cognitive mind, the intellectual mind. Yes, as when we're, well, let's think of the subconscious mind of when the tide comes in. And the sand is the conscious mind. So when we are asleep, our conscious mind is pretty much submerged by the subconscious mind. Yes, but during other times, or then we could say that when we are awake, full awakened state, the subconscious mind retrieves. But during the day, for instance, we have lots of different situations in which we have our conscious and subconscious at a varying degrees of presence. For instance, if you start listening to some music, some relaxing music in the daytime, whilst you're awake, perhaps your subconscious here will gain a little bit more space, and your conscious mind relaxes a little bit more. So we will have varying states. So yeah, sometimes subconscious mind will be dominating, other times conscious mind will be dominating, but there's a continuum in between these two extremes. And ideally, that's why when during trance state is when those two minds come, they are aligned, because is the perfect time, because our subconscious mind is relaxed. Otherwise, our conscious critical faculty would reject some very good suggestions that we can be presenting to it, just because they don't match the previous beliefs or ideas, because we can have as much will as we want intellectually, consciously, but if the idea in the subconscious mind, the belief says otherwise, the will has no power. And that doesn't mean that will is not important, but this is kind of relegating it to the place where it belongs. We need to work on the subconscious idea first. That's why at that time is the perfect time when we can outroot, because the will itself will not outroot the idea. We can have as much will as we want. That what I said before about clients that tell me, I know watch all the videos, read all the books, I can't do it. We can't do it. But that's the perfect time when we can reevaluate, we can rethink all patterns of thought and behavior, because we're more relaxed and our subconscious mind is submerging a little bit more. The conscious mind is more submerged by the subconscious. So at that point is when we can make all those changes, because we can just think, okay, maybe I can let this go. This thought is no longer serving me, but this one is really good. Let's take it in. Because when our conscious mind is very much awake, even if the suggestions are brilliant, we might reject them because they're not matching the belief. Does it make sense?
Very good. Yeah, it does make sense. I find it really interesting. And it's clear, actually, throughout our conversation, the importance of relationship, whether it's mind and body, whether it's our digestive system and our nervous system. I find it really interesting, the fact that everything is based on community, like within ourselves, and how important that is. Why do you believe that when we improve our emotional state, that it also helps improve those around us too?
It does. It does. And we can blame it on the mirror neurons. Yes, they were discovered in the 80s by Rizzolatti, by a neuroscientist. Yes, and we've got mirror neurons, and well, it's like frisbee throwing, isn't it? What you give out comes back to you. And you notice that when you're with somebody who is feeling really low, it can make you feel low too. Whilst when you're with somebody who is more energetic or uplifting, or you can feel uplifted as well, because we have, due to empathic resonance. That's why it is positivity, for example, is contagious, and happiness is contagious, because through our mirror neurons we copy, we mirror other people's emotional states.
I don't know why. For some reason, I was thinking about yawning, because it's so funny, isn't it? How when one person yawns, how you end up yawning as well. I guess it's similar. It's like that energetic exchange. So funny. We've only actually got a few minutes left, Carla, but I always like to create a bit of space for you to be able to share, maybe intuitively, or maybe something that you feel like you really want to convey that we haven't touched on. Is there anything that kind of, comes to mind, comes to your spirit?
Well, that what I practice, solution focused hypnotherapy, is something that I do because I believe that is the best tool that I know to help people make a positive change quickly. And I do it because from all the therapeutic approaches that I know, this is the one that worked better for me, because is what I want to do with my clients is that I want them to be independent and get on with life. And from my perspective, I think that therapy should have goals, clear goals, timelines, timelines or time frames, well, certain times. And so people can get on with life. And what I really like, because my clients have their goals, which I always bear in mind, but I have my own goals, and my own goals are that my clients reach their goals as soon as possible. And once they leave the consulting room, they have internalized tools so that they can do this by themselves. So this is not something that, is something that is within them, and they can just do this and get on with life. And that's the key for me. It's transformational work, but it's as quick as it can possibly be. Being solid as well, because you want the change to be consistent, and you want it to be solid. You just don't want to just have a quick improvement. I always check that as well. Not so much that clients are doing well today because everything is going well. I see how they deal with adversity. What happens when things don't go well? Is this one thing that happens contaminating your whole reality, or are you still very chilled and you think, okay, this has happened, but look at all the other things that are going well for me? That's when I see that they have that sufficient intellectual control to make that proper assessment of the situation, and understanding that it's not the events, it's not what happens to us, but how we interpret the events, the thought patterns surrounding the events. And that's what I can see, that they are already there. They are just, they have that internalized, they can do this by themselves.
Amazing.
So yeah.
And how do people find out more about you and your business?
How do they find out?
Yeah, where do they go? How do they find you?
www.
Yep.
Carla. Oh, sorry, this is in Spanish. Carla Marcos Hypnotherapy, all one word. .co.uk.
So it's Carla Marcos López.
Sorry, am I pronouncing it the right way? Carla Marcos, not Lopez, just because it's Carla. Okay. The business name is Carla Marcos Hypnotherapy.
Okay.
Very simple, very straightforward, easy to remember. Carla Marcos Hypnotherapy.co.uk.
Beautiful. Carla, it's been so lovely to spend some time with you on the Brainz magazine podcast, and really enjoyed your knowledge and your depth, because there was plenty to think about. And I always like when there is a mix of information but also practical. You gave some really good practical and tangible steps there, which I think are really helpful, especially in today's world of like personal development and each of us wanting to heal and go a little deeper in our own understanding. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much, Mark, for inviting me today. And it's been lovely chatting with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining this episode with me, Mark Sefton. I hope you've really enjoyed it. Feel free to leave us a positive review on iTunes, and I look forward to welcoming you back to the next episode of the Brainz Magazine podcast.